We don't build spaceships, we build mind ships. That's what I said a number of years ago, really tongue-in-cheek. I wasn't giving it much thought, but over the years I started to realize how true that is. That we're trained to think about transportation as going from here to there. But when we think about curiosity or our imagination, transportation isn't really about location. It's about an access to that which allows us to bridge into other worlds, other dreams, other possibilities. This is one of the reasons why I have loved books all of my life. I've grown up around books because I've seen them essentially as our time machines, meaning they allow us to safely enter into other worlds, other dreams, other religions, other folklores, other mysteries, and yet not be undone by them, not swept away by them, but actually amplified, because it reassures us that when we ask, who am I? And we start with just that reflection we see in the mirror and we think, well, it's just me. We have one answer and one understanding. But when we stand in a library, we start to realize that each book is just as human as the next book. It's a different life, a different experience, and yet it is uniquely human. So it is whole, it is holy, meaning that it was a contribution to the larger weave of that question, not asked simply by ourselves, but by the human species. Who are we then? And if we think about a question that rich, who are we, that couldn't be answered in any one time, like there's many books in the library, but actually had to come from beginning with essentially an empty cave, like the womb we're born from. We're born and we must then begin our experience. So what if the question of mankind, going back to the caves, because I'm a cave painter, is this question of the richness of who are we then was so great, like infinite probabilities. We had to traverse every speculation, every possibility. And why I feel an ennobling aspect from the library is this willingness of human beings to be born, not knowing why, not knowing what their story is or what their purpose is, and through difficulty and trouble usually, having to find a path, having to find a way. And because it's such a unique path and way, they end up finding ways as human beings that none of us would have thought about before, because essentially the demands of their condition made them out of necessity take that journey. But now we can share in that journey, and so that life is valued. It's been lived, and it has a greater relationship to all of the other lives that have been lived. And so when I stand in the timelessness of all time, I realize that our curiosity, our sense of wonder, our sense of who and what we are, begins to see itself as an expression of the living library. And that like our DNA that holds a genetic code composed of all of the qualities and conditions that the human race has passed through, it's very interesting that we could argue that's what the library reveals. It reveals the sacred DNA of human thought and desire to know the nature of its own being. And it discovered in that act that its being was so rich, it didn't fit into any one time, any one condition, any one religion, but had to explore all of these times, all of these conditions, all of these religions, so that as we now have access, we begin to say, maybe we truly are not only far more interesting than we think, we are as interesting as the questions we ask. And we do have resource to our inheritance, but we must do the work. In other words, in a library, the books don't come to you. They offer you a resource, but we must come to them. And when they do, and when we do, oh, the adventures we can take together. And I'm speaking from experience at this point. Thank you. Honor the library. Honor your curiosity. Honor the inheritance of what it means to be human. It wasn't a journey we got out of. It was a journey we've been making something of. And that's the art of it.